Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity. So there's just something I want to explain here, is that you can either run your Python-based command for your Django project using the CMD, or you can utilize Visual Studio Code's inbuilt terminal. Now, let me show you the difference. So of course we have the first one here, where we can say python manage.py run server. Okay, let's run that. So this is the first way, of course. And of course, we will be greeted with this. However, there is another way. So let's close our server. Now to do this, we press Ctrl+C and type CLS. Now what we can do, however, is we can actually open this up here. So we can see there's some sort of bar here. And it will show this bi-directional arrow, and we can just pull this up. Okay. And automatically it should configure to the appropriate location. So probably for you, it's going to show something like this. So what I can actually do here to make it easier is I'm just going to kill this here. And all I'm going to do is just press add, and it should look something like this for you the first time when you open up your terminal. Okay, so what you can do here is you can simply head over to your project here. So you can type cd e-commerce. Okay, and now you're in your e-commerce directory, clear that up, and you can say in here, python manage.py run server. Now make sure that your server's off here, or else you won't be able to see the real test here, and just press enter. Okay, so there we go, it's running. So if we were to just refresh, it still works fine. Perfect. So these are two ways in which you can run commands for Django. So you can either use the Visual Studio Code terminal here, or you can utilize the CMD. I prefer the CMD, it's just my way of doing things, but the choice is yours as to what you want to use. Okay, so that's really up to you. All right, so that's all I wanted to mention. Now, if you want to close this up, you can just press Ctrl+C as well, clear this up, and you can just close this here if you don't want to make use of it. Okay, so that's it. Just two different means of running Python-based commands for your Django project. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity. We will be learning how to configure the Python interpreter for our virtual environment in Visual Studio Code. So let's get started. Now what you want to do is you just simply want to open your folder here, your dev folder. Okay, then head over to your virtual environment and just keep this open for now, and you can just minimize this. Now let's head over to Visual Studio Code. Now what we need to do, like I said earlier, is to configure the Python interpreter. Now this is important because what we need to do is we need to set up that Python interpreter to actually look into our virtual environment for our packages. Now usually this isn't such an important step, but we will run into a few issues, especially when we want to install a few packages, such as packages that include setting up environment variables and packages like so. So it's best to set this up accordingly. So to do that, you need to first open the Python interpreter. Now a simple way to do that is to press Ctrl, Shift, and P on your keyboard. So I say it again, Ctrl, Shift, and P on your keyboard, and this will open up this here. So what you can do is you can select Python, select interpreter. Okay, so go ahead and select that. And now, as you can see, there are a ton of virtual environments here and a lot of interpreter paths, as you can see, for my various projects that I have. So what we need to do is we need to say enter interpreter path here. So by this plus icon on this bar here. And then we need to enter the path to our Python interpreter. Now to do this, what you can do is head over to your folder again. Make sure you're in your virtual environment as it was before. Click here in your URL path. Go ahead and copy that. And you just want to paste it in here. And simply go ahead and press enter. Okay, there we go. So that was it. So to verify this, we can press Ctrl, Shift, and P again. Select interpreter, and we should see that we are all set and ready to go, and our path is all set as it should be. Okay, so make sure that you set that up. Very important. You just want to go ahead and set up your Python interpreter. Okay, so that's that, guys. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next hands-on activity where we are going to just simply go ahead and set up our Django project, and also in the process set up our virtual environment and, just configure the basics. So let's get straight to it. So what I'm going to do here is just create a directory here on my desktop. Okay, and I'm just going to call it dev. Okay, short for developer, since we're all developers. All right, so the next thing you want to do is you want to look for your CMD. So you can just type CMD, which is our command prompt or terminal, where we will be issuing Django commands. Right, so what we want to do is we want to go into this folder. So what I like to do is say cd desktop. So cd means change directory. So we're moving from this location here to our desktop, and now we are here on our desktop. Next, we want to say cd dev. So now once we're on the desktop, we want to go in this folder on the desktop called dev. And there we go. CLS is a command which is used to just simply clear our terminal. Okay, so to make it nice and clean. Now, we are going to need to install the virtual env package. So this virtual env package is used for creating a virtual environment. So we need to make sure we install this. Now, this is the only package that we will install globally. So let's go ahead and install that. So we need to make sure it's installed globally on our system. So I already have it installed. That's great. So to verify this, you can just say pip space list. Okay, and then we can verify if it's globally on our system. And there we go. We have virtual env globally on our system. Okay, perfect. Now, what we can do in this dev folder, we can go ahead and create our virtual environment. So I'm going to say virtual env, and now we need to name our virtual environment. So you can name this anything that you want. So I'm going to name mine venv and press enter. So you can call it anything. You can call your virtual environment venv2, venv, my venv, env, anything that you want. So this is up to you. This is optional. All right, so our virtual environment is now online. Great, let's just clear this up. Now we want to activate it, so we can say venv. So this is what you named your virtual environment, /scripts, /activate. And you can see if you're in your virtual environment, if you see the custom name that you assigned it, along with it being in parentheses, like so. Now I just want to say pip list and see what we have in there. So technically we should have barely nothing in there. We should only have a few packages, and those packages should basically be the pip install packages. Yep. So these are the basics. Great. Now we want to make sure that all of our packages are within our virtual environment, because we are eventually going to generate a requirements.txt file near the end of the course. And we will need this for deployment. So now what we want to do is say pip install Django. So we're going to install Django. Make sure that you're in your virtual environment. So it's good practice to make sure whenever you install a package that you install it within your virtual environment. So I'm going to say pip install Django and just press enter. So let's install Django. Okay, this should be relatively fast. So let's just wait for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video, and once it's been installed, I will resume. So let's just wait for that. All right, so we can see Django has been installed. Great, let's just clear this up and verify. So remember pip list. And now let's check all of our packages within our virtual environment. And there we go, we have Django. Perfect, that's good. And we're all set to go. Perfect. So let's see what we have so far. So if we open this dev folder here, okay, we have our virtual environment folder. Great. And now what we're going to do is actually create our Django project now. So to do that, make sure you're in your development folder here and make sure your virtual environment is active. So I'm just going to say Django-admin start project. And now you need to name your Django project. So I'm going to call mine e-commerce. So this is appropriate since that's what the course is about. So I'm going to say enter. Perfect. Now let's verify this. If we go into dev, we now have our Django e-commerce project here, all set and ready to go, and we have our virtual environment. Now, an important thing to note, make sure you don't move your virtual environment folder, because it is hard-coded to the location that you set. So just an early lesson there for you guys. So make sure you just leave it as is. I prefer to keep my virtual environment outside. That's just the way that I prefer. You can decide how you want to do it, of course. Perfect. So now we're just going to minimize this, and let's open Visual Studio Code. Now, automatically, you should see your project folder there, okay, usually. But if that's not the case, what you can do is you can go ahead and open your folder. So you can just go to File, Open Folder, and head over to your desktop, click on that dev folder that we created, select it, and let's just wait. And there we go. So there is our structure. So we can now see in our dev directory, we have our Django project e-commerce with our manage.py, our settings, URLs, etc. And we also have our virtual environment here all set and ready to go. Perfect. Now what we want to do is just give this a quick test. So we're just going to say Python. We need to first cd into our e-commerce project. So we need to say cd e-commerce, so that we're in our e-commerce project, because the reason for that is we want to then be able to run Python commands, so we can run our Django project here, and we can run this file manage.py. So let's clear this up, make sure you're in the following directory, and you can say Python manage.py run server. So let's go ahead and run it. Okay, and there we go. So it's running, and as you can see in the process, it generated an SQLite database file here, which is perfect. So everything's good. So let's test this out. So we can head over to that URL, and we can see the install has worked successfully and everything's good to go. Just make sure you head over to the following URL, which the development server is active on. All right, perfect. So everything's running as we should. We set up our basic Django project and everything is set up. So make sure, of course, the most important part is to set up your virtual environment correctly, because remember, we are going to generate a requirements.txt file near the end. All right, so that's it for this part. Thank you, guys.